Hey, how's it going, guys, and welcome back. So I've made a couple of different scripts for this video, and I've been having a hard time really extrapolating it effectively because this topic comes with a lot of twists and turns, especially as it pertains to me being someone who got a glimpse of the sort of behind the scenes aspect to what I'm about to be talking about. Anyways, what we are talking about is Anitons, a monster taming / farming / sandbox type game that a lot of people are still asking about to this very day. I'm going to discuss where the game is at now and sort of go over the path that the game has followed up until this point. I'm going to do my best to keep personal opinions aside and only add conjecture where I think it's necessary, but I think that I can provide a pretty unique perspective on the Aniton situation given my position as a content creator who has worked with them behind the scenes. Anyways, let's dive in. So Anitons was initially going to be this sort of Pokemon ARK fusion with real-time combat, base building, a story, multiplayer, and more, and definitely made a significant splash in the monster taming scene, both leading up to and during its Kickstarter campaign. I mean, it did so enough to the point where I'm still getting questions about the game to this day, and I even have people asking me if I've ever checked it out, despite the fact that my name is listed on the Kickstarter campaign, which, trust me, we'll get to in a bit. Anyways, Anitons sort of just popped up one day out of nowhere with a Discord server that I and many others joined pretty early. At the time, not much was known other than some of the types and a couple designs. Now, I'm going to gloss over the initial build-up, as for the most part, things were pretty good on the up and up, and hype was building up for the game. I had various discussions with one of the devs whom I'm not going to name, but they were a major player in the Anitons project. Anyways, leading up to the Kickstarter campaign, I was contacted by this dev and asked to collaborate on the Kickstarter gameplay showcase, which many of you may have seen. It has my voice in it. I want to iterate that this was not a paid collaboration, but more so it was me doing voice for a game that I thought looked pretty awesome, and I was more than happy to help. Just before the Kickstarter was initially supposed to come out, the same dev gave me access to the pre-Kickstarter page, just so I could see sort of what's going on, if I had any advice, stuff like that. And again, I of course was more than happy to help because I wanted to see the game get funded. I definitely thought the game was really cool, and I'm the type of person to really go all out when I see something I like. Anyways, the reason I'm mentioning this sort of background stuff is because it's going to have more relevance as we move forward, so just bear with me a little bit. The Kickstarter was riddled with a lot of spelling mistakes, grammatical errors, so much so that I decided to go through it and write down a bunch of notes on what needed to be changed and then give it to this dev because, again, I really wanted this game to do well, and I knew that the dev in question who wrote it was ESL, so I figured, you know what, let's try to make this thing look as professional as possible. It's easy to make mistakes when English is not your first language, so no problem, I got it. The dev was really thankful and told me that he'd leave a special thanks or something like that in the Kickstarter page, and I was like, oh, sweet, and that was that. Anyways, the Kickstarter was approaching and the dev enlisted Ruffled Rowlet to do a sponsored video on the game, which further added to the snowballing hype for it. This did, however, come to a halt because the Kickstarter ended up getting delayed by about a month because the devs wanted to secure a Nintendo Switch stretch goal. I think the delay ended up damaging the potential of this Kickstarter as, one, the Pokemon Crown Tundra would end up dropping, which left any potential Poketubers who would have been able to cover it busy, and two, because a month in internet time is like 10 years in real life. Things come in and out of relevance so fast that people won't wait that long and their attention spans may not last that long, despite the fact that some will. So unless you have significant updates to keep the hype train sort of moving, you'll definitely see a fall off. Anyways, the Kickstarter dropped in November and it was doing okay at first, but it definitely started to stagnate. At the time, I would try to generate hype the best I could by putting a lot of videos out for it, but my channel was much smaller than it is now, and I had felt like I was the only person really talking about the game, other than a couple smaller channels. It really felt like once the Kickstarter went up, the promotional material kind of just stopped, and I think budgetary issues led to them only being able to recruit Ruffled Rowlet once again for another video, but no one else. I must reiterate that I never got paid for promotion. I just genuinely wanted to see the game get funded. I did my best making multiple videos, posting on Twitter, on Reddit, and in different Discords, etc. But I really was in a place where I felt like I was the only one really trying to get this game funded. The dev that I had been in contact with went completely radio silent when the Kickstarter went up, and to this day never responded to any of my messages during that time, trying to give them advice to garner more hype for the game during its campaign. For example, I had covered most, if not all, of the major aspects for the game, so I was trying to get like a type chart or something like that so I could make more videos. After the 1 month delay, a lot of what I had fixed for them didn't get fixed or ended up getting changed, and they ended up crediting me as, and I quote, design on their Kickstarter, which confused a lot of people, making them think that I was an employee, which again, I was not. I actually got flack for sharing it in certain places because people thought that this was my game and I was just self-promoting it everywhere, which even if I was, I do think is a little bit silly, but I did ask to have my name removed, and since, you know, I'm not a designer, and none of the devs ended up removing it, it's still up there to this day. Long story short, the Kickstarter unfortunately did not garner its funding goal, and thus the devs would try to find a publisher instead. Since the Kickstarter, I've been contacted by people who think I'm a developer for the game, one of which was a pretty prestigious indie publisher whom I won't name directly. I continued to point everyone in the direction of the devs, but unfortunately they were not able to establish a publisher, which sort of leads us to where we are now. The team that the dev I was speaking to was a part of, aka 2bigo, decided to leave the project entirely, presumably taking their work with them. I'm not too sure on that aspect. From what I know, the main dev now, Hoki Roya, is a digital art designer, so I'm assuming the code and engine are gone, but again, I'm not entirely sure how that aspect worked out. Since then, the dev had stated that the game will be going in a different direction, and after months of sort of radio silence, we get another announcement that a new dev team had taken the place of 2bigo, but we haven't received any new information since, or gameplay outside of it. But yeah, that's pretty much where we're at now. The Discord server has been extremely quiet. We don't really know what the state of the game is in, other than the fact that there are some new developers, and presumably the game will be very different from what it originally was. So I'm not sure what those differences will entail, nor am I certain if the game will remain a Pokemon ARK Fusion or be something entirely new. Thanks for watching to the end of this video, guys. I just want to iterate again that the point of this video is not to criticize Anitons nor praise it, but simply to inform everyone on the basic rundown of the situation, because as of this day, I still get comments and DMs asking about it. I've left out a lot just because I didn't want to overbloat the video, but I do think that this should give an adequate perspective on everything. If you guys do want me to put out a video at some point in the future talking about my personal experience and sort of going into more detail about how I was feeling about the whole situation, definitely let me know in the comments. And I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for watching my content, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.